want to talk about the victims of the Letby case. I'm actually not talking about the parents of the babies because the babies were anonymous and the parents were anonymous. So all of this stuff about we shouldn't bring it up again because it'll be too much heartbreak for the parents, shouldn't discuss it, it'll be too much heartbreak for the parents. I'm not interested in that, because I actually think that in the Thirlwall inquiry they were criticising some of the hospital management for not telling the parents soon enough, whereas I actually think the parents shouldn't have been told at all. Apparently there's some sort of legal obligation to tell the parents, but I think this needs to be looked at, because what I'm talking about is if the parents were never told, there would never be any heartache. I mean, obviously they had the grief of losing their child through presumably natural causes. Okay, if there was neglect on the hospital, if there was fault on the hospital's side, then maybe they could tell them. But I'm talking about it, even if somebody did actually kill the child, I don't think it would have helped to have ever told them. I mean, how would that ever help? Why would they even need to know? The reason I'm saying this is this is going to get a bit grim, but there was a case locally where there was this weirdo mortician who I'm going to use the word necrophilia, and the police said they had to go and inform the family members of the victims. I'm going to use the word, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm just screaming, saying, why tell them? They don't need to know. It's better. Surely it's better if they're not told, and surely it's better if the parents were never told. I mean, all of this grief that has been put upon them was put upon them by the police. I mean, if they, if they were just left be to grieve over the loss of their child, they don't need all of, they never needed the trial in the first place. But some people will disagree with me about that. But what I'm talking about when I say the victims, obviously Lucy being a victim, Lucy's parents, it must just be awful, absolutely awful for them. But also there's other types of victims. I'm talking about what society has actually lost. We've lost a good nurse, a good, kind nurse, and the irony in all of this is they're putting her in prison over the death of babies, but now she herself is in her 30s and she's in prison, and now she can't produce babies. So it's, in a way, it's a loss of more life. Not okay. Someone's not died, but also life hasn't been created. And what else has people lost apart from time? Just generally the taxpayer. I mean, we've got the initial Operation Hummingbird, 10 million. Letby's trial, 4 million. And I'm sure these are conservative figures. 60 million in compensation. Thirlwell inquiry. I think that translates as nearly 3 million, 2.8 million. And these are conservative estimates. I mean, how do you actually feel about the police, even the police resources? If you live in Chester, the police resources going into this case and then continuing to go into this case to try and find evidence of more crimes that didn't take place. I mean, how does the taxpayer feel about the police? When they've got an actual crime going on, but no, the police are too busy dealing with things like this. I mean, with all of that taxpayer money that had been spent on everything, legal fees and everything, I mean, you could almost build a new wing on a hospital, a whole new neonatal ward. It's a joke. And I want to talk about some other victims, which are the observers of the case. A lot of people, anybody who felt that a miscarriage had taken place at any point, and to see I'm talking about the PTSD of watching somebody innocent be burnt to the stake like this. I mean, I've got no emotional. I should have no emotional interest in the woman. She doesn't live near me. Just generally, I must not be a caring person, but even it affects me really badly to see. I tried to get over it when the verdict came up as guilty, and I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't stop thinking about the injustice, and the things that really pushed my buttons were like episodes of Loose Women entitled Was Lucy Letby Born Evil, and all of the witch hunting, and to be lost at sea. I'm not just talking about me, obviously. There was obviously so many people in the same boat as me that couldn't speak out. I mean, I did speak out about it. I don't care, but there were obviously other people who just had to keep it to themselves, and thought, and I've read comments that said I hope she's guilty, and I completely understand that. I hope, in a way, I hope she's guilty, because then it's not a miscarriage, and this awful thing hasn't happened to an innocent person. But obviously, the more you look into it, the more you find that isn't the case. And to be to be there watching someone be crucified the way they did to Lucy, with everything. And there are actually, the reason that there are laws of libel and slander are, the reason that that's a crime is because it hurts people. If I say, if somebody says something slanderous about someone, they are hurt by it. That's why it's a crime. They are they're in a way injured by it, albeit usually they've got to prove financially injured, but there are rules about slander and libel for a reason. And just think how much people have had a complete free-for-all to be able to say what they want. Put Lucy in the stocks and throw tomatoes at her and have a complete free-for-all without any pushback at all. And what hurts the most is hearing, you can pass quite a lot of it off as ignorance. They know not what they, forgive them, for they know not what they do. However, it's the people who should know better about the case. I'm talking about the Liz Hulls and Caroline Cheethams, who just followed the case, and they're scouring judgmental attitudes towards her, and the Judith Moritz, who's investigated the whole case. And I recommend you go on Jabe's account and have a look at Judith Morris's reasons for thinking Lucy's guilty. It was just awful. For me, seeing someone that I don't know persecuted, I actually found it. I found it quite hard, and I think I'm quite grounded, and so I'm trying to think how hard it must be for people who know her, or other people who are a lot more empathetic than me, and that must be an awful lot of people out there. And finally, there's another group of victims, and those are the members of the public who actually didn't know about her innocence, and were gaslit and fooled into believing this woman was an angel of death. They'd been used, and they'd been tricked into shouting, "Free Barabbas!" Those are the people who are victims too. And when they do learn of, when she is exonerated, they're going to feel foolish, and it's not their fault. My members of my own family, when I try to talk about the case to them, they're just dismissive, and because they don't want to hear, because the initial reaction is she'd been convicted twice, she went through 2 court cases, she'd been convicted twice, she must be guilty, whatever else is out there. They don't want to read, and they're right, they should have faith in the system. We've got a justice system like that for a reason. And if you can't trust that, your whole world crumbles around you, because that's what everything's based on, right and wrong. and to know, I mean, of course, to know that someone's passed through the system the way they have gone through the system, and not being cleared already, and all of this to happen just makes a mockery of everyone. And so the victims are the major victims are those out there, the public, that they gaslit into showing them the Lucy Letby "I'm evil" note, and this is before the trial or during the trial. But we've heard recently. This might date the video, but I'm just going to tell you about today's news, and with that Southport killer who killed the little kids, and Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, he wasn't allowed to talk about anything about the case. He said he wasn't allowed, even though he knew about everything, he wasn't allowed to say a word about the case in case it jeopardised anything to do with the trial. And yet, how come we all saw this post-it note from Lucy, the "I'm evil" post-it note? I'm sure we saw that before the verdict was given. And yet, again, on Jabe's channel, the complete Lucy Letby police interview, where she's talking about the post-it note. I recommend anyone go and listen to that. And so the police released the post-it note, and they've never released this interview in its entirety, and it will just blow everything out the water. So if you've been following the cat, if you feel that you're taking the side that she's guilty, I think a lot of people are taking the side that she's guilty because they need her to be guilty, because otherwise it turns you into a victim. And so you can understand these people who want to be dismissive. They don't want to listen to any more. They want to have faith in the justice system, and they're doing that for good reason. But it's them. They're the ones who have been tricked by the system, and it needs to be remedied quickly. The longer it takes, the worse it is. Not just for Lucy, not just for the taxpayer, but the worse it will be for everybody, not just those who think she's innocent. The worse it will be for those who are hoping she's guilty. They need to do it quickly.